So what we kind of decided that I can talk about today is a little bit about how we support ourselves, local businesses and other charities on looking at the way that we work and how do we know it's actually working and what improvements do we need to make, and also working in collaboration with our communities, what local communities and wider communities, and what difference that makes. So I kind of thought we'd touch upon, because we can use the solution focused approach, which is what I'm a master in, if you like, in the solution focused world, on the team building projects, your own work, fundraising, which is a super duper thing for all of us that are in the charity sector. Social media is a biggie. How do we connect with our clients and our community in social media? How would you like them to describe us as charities? Are we doing too much? Are we doing too little? Is it just right? What difference is it making to the families out there? How do you know it's making that difference, and where do you store that information? So then when we are reapplying for funding, at least we have all that knowledge there. Even with Givey, how are we connecting with Givey? What difference is that making? Because they are part of our community. All the charities within Givey are also part of a community. And I know that Givey is doing a lot of work to kind of build that all together. And it's not as easy as it looks to do that. But if it were to happen, what difference would it make? So all the questions around the work that we do is what difference would it make if that were to happen? So no matter what it is what difference would it make, rather than goal setting at first. So when we are looking at a new project, or we're thinking about working in collaboration or whatever it might be, these are the questions that I will ask of anyone. So, and including families that we work with and young people that we work with. What is already working well, and how do you know it is working? What tells you that it's working? Gathering that data, that information, that evidence is absolutely key, because then that's what we can be reporting back. And also that's things that you can be putting on social media and with other people that you're working with. I know that this is working well because of the outcomes for this, this, and this, and this is how we gathered that. Now we can do something in collaboration and kind of fit both, whatever it might be, whatever the projects might be, put two projects together, or be having staff meetings using this tool. How do we know it's working? How do you know that the team at Givey is doing a great job? I mean, I'm sure Anne and I can sit here and read a whole list of what Givey is already doing, the staff at Givey is already doing. And then we kind of go to the even better if. So not what needs to happen next, but this is what's working well, even better if. If we were to say that it was one step closer to being exactly where we want it to be, what would that look like? And what would be the first sign that you're working towards this? So if some charities have better social media presence, what difference would that make? And what would be the first sign that would tell them that it's making a difference? Well, they might have more followers, they might have more likes, people might be signing up to training more, whatever it might be, because then you know what to do more of. So whatever's already working, we kind of just keep doing that. There's no point in changing that, but it's looking at even better if and upping it, and then how would we know the difference that would make? Does that make sense? I'm kind of flying through it because this bit's a bit boring to me. Yeah, but you've got to know what your if you don't know what's already working, you don't know what to do more of. And if something's not working, we know that that has to change. And change is inevitable. We can't stop change. It happens all the time. So in terms of collaboration, if we have collaborated with so many services or so many agencies or whatever it might be, what are the benefits of that? And if we were to collaborate with more services and even better with our service users, what difference would it make to us and our charities or our businesses or whatever that might be? So when you're working collaborative with staff and service users, what does it look like? It's all the same questions. What does it look like? What are the benefits? What else? Next steps, improvements. How do you know what you're doing with your service users is working? Yeah. I don't know if you guys, because what I usually do, because I know I've only got 40 minutes, that's why I'm kind of rushing through it so that we can just talk about it.
It's okay,
kind of
time, actually.
Go into breakout rooms and kind of start answering the questions which maybe we can do in a second. And then what we do is we start scaling. Yeah, so I will go through these again. I'm just kind of going through a whistle-stop tour first. So in terms of family-based solutions, for example, our social media presence, presence is probably about a 7. What's already working well? We don't have as many followers as I would like, but it's getting there. It's always rising. My admin team are also taking ownership of the social media, so it's not just me. There are more people sharing our posts. There are more people commenting on our posts than there were, say, last year, if I'm looking back to last year. And what needs to happen to move up on the scale? Well, that's something that me and the team need to talk about. So if I'm at 7, how am I going to get to an 8? Well, I need to spend a little bit more time maybe pre-planning the posts rather than just doing it ad hoc. And then I can come up with a whole list of things that I can do. And then the biggest part that I need to concentrate on, if I were to do that, what difference would it make? Yeah, because that's ultimately what I want to know. What difference, by doing this, what difference is it going to make to the charity or to my business or to my team or whatever it might be? Yeah. And then this is where we kind of go into breakout rooms, if you don't mind, and start practicing these questions. And then if we answer these questions, we'll come back and then we'll do the scales for it. And then that's basically, in a nutshell, in a very quick nutshell, how we kind of look at the outcomes and what we need to do next in terms of our working in collaboration and fundraising and everything else that we're doing. And we support local businesses also who are needing a little bit of direction. It's all, yeah, because that's how we kind of do it. We look at, this is exactly what I want to see. Now, what the heck am I going to do to get there? But if I can't visualize and see the outcomes of whatever I want, the chances of me meeting it are a lot lower. You kind of work backwards. This is what we are giving you. Yeah. It's a bit like clothing, isn't it? You're buying the actual garment, but you're not seeing all the work that goes into it. You're not going down the factory line, are you? But this is the outcome of that. And you see the outcome of that garment on a doll, on a mannequin. Yeah. Right. So what you guys are doing is selling the garment, the top, the trousers, whatever, but without a fashion model wearing it for you to show people what the outcome of wearing this does to your figure. So you need a mannequin almost. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. Mm. Hey, did you guys do it or were you gossiping?
No, we did something.
Alan's on fire as always.
Yeah, Alan.
No, I just ended up in the hot seat, which I didn't want to be. But...
Alan, you'll always end up in the hot seat because you never want to be there.
There was a great, a great sort of group in the breakout room who really kind of raised some interesting questions, and so that was really useful.
Good. What was useful about it?
Just
in the hot seat. Sorry.
Clarify. Yeah. Different ideas about how we could promote it, and also John kind of clarified that our main focus is marketing our events, our next production, and I was thinking, yeah, actually he's absolutely right there, and that is something that the group is well known for and has a good reputation in the local area. And so if we were scoring that, we would score that quite highly in terms of, that, but there are certainly areas we can improve, and that's something we need to look at. So and Bosra had some really interesting ideas about how we could kind of link with schools and engage in a different way. So so it's very useful.
So if the marketing was better, what difference would that make to your charity?
We just get more people to come and see our productions. So that's kind of the key for us, because that's our main income source. There is fundraising around that, sort of running raffles on performances and so on. But generally, it's all about how many people come and sit in that theatre and watch the
Bums
show.
on seats.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a weird question, Alan, which you don't have to answer, but this is something that I'll ask families and businesses is, if we were to meet next year and you were to report back to me to say, actually, we achieved our goal with having more bums on seats. And I asked you, how did you manage to do that? What might you say to me?
I have no idea.
But that's something that you can think about.
Yeah.
So we look for future focused questions as to.
At the moment, we're just wondering whether people will come back to the theatre. I think a lot of our traditional audience, our audience are quite cautious, and so we're trying to think, well, we need to try and approach this in a way that gives them confidence in coming back. So we've asked the theatre if we can do socially distanced seating, even though it's not a requirement. But it's a big theatre, so for our next production, there is room to do that without losing ticket sales. Just to try and make people who perhaps have not yet returned feel confident about coming back. So
how would that boost their confidence if you were able to do that?
I think we would market that as a plus point. First of all, we're doing it as a one-act show, so there's no interval, so it's one act, so you don't have to worry about mixing with people in interval. We'll have space between the seating, so again, just making people feeling safe and comfortable, reassuring them, come and see this, and also obviously the show's going to be great. But just that's another angle we can sell it from. I think
removing the obstacles, aren't you?
Trying, yeah.
I mean, that is something that I do all the time with the families and with businesses. It's next time I see you will probably be in 1 year's time. How would I know that you were successful? What would you have done to make it successful? What would you report back to me that would tell me that it worked? And then each time they give me a point of this is what I did, I'll ask, what else? What else? How did you manage to do that? How did you manage to do it? Because if you can acknowledge how you managed to do something that was good, then you know what to do more of.
Yeah.
So at the moment, Alan, you're listening. You are listening to your community, because some of them are quite anxious and not confident enough to go back to the theatre. So you're listening to your community, which now you're thinking maybe we can do it social. Go for it, but make it more social distance. For the bums on seats. So you're listening to your community. You're thinking about what you might be doing, and you're already active on that. And if you were to get all those bums on seats with, 2 seats apart for each family, whatever it might be, what difference might that make to the kids in the production? Do you see what I mean? And then you can start building and building and building on those sort of questions as to what difference would it make to everybody, until you've got this new kind of vision of what it looks like and the difference it would make, and ultimately raise money for the charity.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking about in our breakout room, it's kind of knowing what you're buying into, and just with those posters, people know that you're keeping them safe and you're listening to them.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty cool. And believe it or not a lot of people do. So people say they do it, but they don't. Yeah. What difference did it make to you, Gemma, Neil, and Venetia having that conversation, which was just a very basic conversation?
It was a good conversation. It makes you think a bit more than what we already are doing. So it did make a big difference, especially that last question you asked. What was it about? Well, 2 of the questions you asked about how we influenced in them, and about the tech side. Showing that we should be doing this, what we should be doing.
I think it's not working harder. I think it's just being smarter with it.
Yeah, it's thinking about it in a different way. I think what you mentioned, we are already thinking about, but the way you asked the questions, I felt it made us think it in a different way. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the key was that we are always doing a hell of a lot of heavy lifting, and we're talking about the heavy lifting to make it easy, and the key message for me is how do we actually, in the language of the outcome, and then work. So that's more to do with, again, kind of how we promote and how we communicate. Because as you said, we're just too close. We're going to do this, create a map to connect charities and donors on a visual and make it low tech. And so, as you said, we're talking about all the good stuff, but it's all going into the how. And then what you're saying is really the communication to the, i.e., the objective of small charities signing up is the language of what the outcome they will, if they did, if you did this, this is the outcome. And by the way, these are all the things we've got to get you to that place. And
to
I
help you
think
towards
one
reaching
of
that
the
outcome.
key takeaways is that we do a hell of a lot, and we try to explain what we're doing. We're going to, podcast and this and that and this, but actually it's just component parts of actually saying what is the outcome that in the language. I think we are missing a marketing kind of person to put things in that language of outcome. And then
you see a lovely top on a mannequin, that's your outcome, because you're like, yes, I want to, when I wear that top, that's exactly what I want to look like. Yeah, you pick up the top, then you start looking at the cycle, the wash cycle. Is it dry clean? Is it this? Then you start having a look at the finer details, don't you? But you go for the outcome first. You don't look at the wash cycle and everything else before you love the outcome on the mannequin.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really, really important. And all charities and businesses are outcome based. We all have to report back to someone. We all need to tick boxes, whether we want to or not. We all have to tick boxes. So when we are working on a new project, like with Alan's or yours, Neil's, or whatever, it's what does that garment on that mannequin look like? Is that something that people would want to buy? That's their outcome. And then you introduce the finer details, as in it's a 30-degree cycle wash, or it's hand wash, or it's whatever, afterwards, rather than doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
It's kind of showing it that way. So then what I usually do is I kind of look, sorry, this is such a crash course. We usually spend a very long time on this, is looking at the scales of it. So if you just do it in your heads. If you guys think of a project or something that you want to achieve, and that's your 10. So your best hope is your 10, the fact that you've done whatever this project is. That's your 10. And 1 is the complete opposite. Where would you scale yourselves as to what you're doing about it? Yeah, because remember, we can't control everyone else's behaviors. We can only influence it. Yeah. Where would you scale yourselves at the moment in terms of reaching that best hope? Just say it in your head. And depending on the number that you gave, give that many points of what you are already doing to help you reach that 10. So if you said six things that you're already doing well. If you said no, then how the heck are you coping? And then what you do is you say, for example, if I'm at a 6, what is it that I, not they, I need to do to get to the next number? And you think about what you need to do to get to that next number. And then you go on to what difference would it make once I reach that number? So the garment, the outcome of reaching that number. So what do I need to do and what difference would it make? Then question, you'll have this on your worksheet. Then we look at who would notice If someone doesn't notice change that you have created, we're more likely to give up on that change. So for the Givey team, it might be the people that would notice is the community, the Givey community, and new communities or new charities coming in. They would have noticed, for example. So it's, where am I on the scale? What am I already doing to achieve that number on the scale? What would I need to do to get to the next number on the scale? And what difference would it make once I get there? It's not if I get there, it's once I get there, because the assumption is that you're going to do it. Right? Always assume that something will work. You have the resources already, it's just finding it and it's getting together. Now, in terms of small charities, when it comes to collaboration, that's something that small charities usually fear. For some reason, they quite fear it. So what, as a Givey team, because I know this is, you guys want something that you want to promote, what is it that you guys can do to eliminate that fear? So by showing outcomes. I don't answer this now, but I'm just kind of planting a seed there. Planting seeds are always brilliant. If you guys were able to show an outcome of this is what happens when small charities collaborate, what would that look like? How would you have promoted that? How would you have made that successful? And you start coming up with a list of things that you guys can start doing. You guys already, everyone here is doing an amazing job as it is. It's just a different shift way of looking at it. It's working backwards. The mannequin is wearing that top. Now, what is it we want people to read once they bought it? And how did we get them to buy it? So you guys have now all of a sudden got this fantastic community. It's absolutely working. There's bums on seats. People are buying in. How did you do it? And the more detail you can go into, the more it reinforces that what you're doing is already working in your brain, and therefore you're more likely to do it. And using the scales as a team, where would we scale ourselves? As a project, where are we on this project? You can use the scales any way you like. So I could use it for self-harming. I could be using it for mental health. I use it with my team all the time. As a team, this is where I'm scaling you guys. Where do you guys scale yourselves, and what do we need to do as a team to get to the next number? And what difference would that make to our clients if we were to achieve that? I talk a lot. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry.
No, you're making us everyone just reassess and think, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. And you just got to remember, because it's not about putting a lot in. It's about just putting the right amount in for people to start noticing change and outcome. People are afraid of change, but it's just finding the right way to kind of grab them in there, and outcomes are usually the best way to do it, because we're all driven by outcomes. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. So it's kind of like, even if you guys do like a promo, say for Givey, do like a little promo of this is the outcome of 2 charities collaborating. This is what's happened. And then just sit back and just wait for, plant that little seed. This is also a possibility for you without saying it. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions? No, because I've given everyone a headache.
You've made us all think, that's what it is.
I'm good at that. I'm good at giving people a headache. Yeah, I mean, I will send you that. But if there's, yeah, because if I go into the next bit, I'll be here for years. So you guys tell me what you want to do next.
Have you had any experience collaborating with small charities?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I collaborate. I join a lot of networking groups.
Okay.
A lot. And also whenever we fundraise for other charities as well. So that means that they collaborate with us. But I think the best way to start collaborating is through networking. introducing yourself, going out there to anything you could possibly go to, whether it be on Zoom or physical meetings. And then choosing a couple of charities that you want to work alongside, and then soon after other charities start joining in. So we have Platinum Performing Arts that we do a lot of work with. So they take some of our case studies and they perform it on stage. And then we invite another charity to come in and say, actually, you do similar, well, not to us, but you do kind of work that involves families. And there was another charity that was working with cancer patients. Come in and also talk to Platinum Performing Arts about your experience of working with that client community. So it's kind of forming little networking groups here and there. So I'm quite stubborn like that. I will get people involved, although people may not want to be. But then once they see the outcome of that, then they start doing it within their own communities.
Yeah.
So I think networking, stubbornness. But I will always go with an outcome. If you and I team up, this is what's going to happen.
I think the
This is what's going to happen. So this is what we're going to do. So this is what we're going to do to get there. Sorry, go on, John.
No. I think you've got some really. Thank you very much, Asye. It's really fascinating. What's come up, and it was really interesting in our group. We had Bushra was talking about what she was doing with the terriers. You got Alan doing what he's doing. You're talking about performing. The reality is that if through collaboration, let's just take on performing arts or drama or theatre. The reality is, if every charity in the country who's involved in drama collaborated together, they would all do better than individually. And we've done a lot of leadership exercises. I'm sure, Alan, you've done them with your leadership team as a head teacher. Through collaboration, everybody wins. The moment you try and start to compete against each other, everybody loses. And I think Givey's got a major role to play in this whole collaboration within the thing of theatre, and particularly of hybrid and technology. More bums on seats, not just in Alan's theatre, but every single theatre in the country is battling the same challenges.
So the question is, what are say with the Givey, all of us at the Givey team, what are we going to do as a team to influence people to collaborate?
Well, we're going to give everybody who's a Givey member a half-price virtual ticket to Alan's theatre, for example. Do you know what I mean? That it just becomes, one big thing that we do as a family, is theatre. The arts means something to all of us. So, why don't, a special discount for all Givey charities on the platform? They can attend.
Has that worked before?
So, we've never tried it before,
Sorry, one of the things, it's literally just come up from John saying that is, you build loyalty around your brand. So for us, we could start using a Givey pound in our Givey village. So, for us, we, in our local area, we had this kind of loyalty scheme where, if you shopped in the local businesses and you use that currency, it was like the Brixton pound, I think they started. So, you could have a Givey pound, and that Givey pound gets you, into these places for less. But we're not saying it's half price, we're calling it a Givey pound. So we're owning it, and you're part of that family and you're part of that village.
Lovely, yeah. Complementary charities as well. I think this is the thing, together with, because what I was hearing from Asye, theatre brings a lot of joy to your members who are suffering from trauma. But Terriers is a classic example of how theatre is being used to actually tackle, youth violence, for example. So it's how do you put together complementary charities?
But when we're selling those tickets to parents, we don't sell it as you're going to come here to watch a theatre about youth violence. We sell it as this is educational to stop your children, prevent your children from this outcome.
Yeah, it is. It's about outcome.
Educational, yeah. So it's an education rather than who wants to flip and go to a theatre and watch something as dim as that? No one. But if you sell it in a way that's no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I do that in my everyday job. I wouldn't buy a ticket personally. I mean, obviously it's part of my thing, but if you sell it as actually this is education for how easy it is to fall into a gang and how us as parents can look out for things, So rather than it being in a parent group and we're all talking about what could happen to our kids and what we need to do as parents, you're actually just performing it. That's how you sell it. You're selling the outcome of me being able to keep my children as safe as possible. Does that make sense?
We're
Because
back to-
otherwise, why would John and Anna and whoever go and buy a ticket to Milford Theatre to watch that particular performance, I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because Gemma wouldn't go. Gemma's child is young. Why would Gemma go? But if Gemma is trying to protect her child and is already thinking about, oh my God, they're going to go to secondary school and this is going to happen. And then I say to Gemma, actually, there's a really good theatre group and they're doing this designed to support parents to look out for the cues and for these and for that. She's more likely to go. So she's already planted the seeds in her head as to how she can parent and what things to look out for in terms of social media, kids on the streets, what's age appropriate, what isn't, teenage pregnancy. She's then like, oh my God, yeah, I need to watch this. Because it's far better than reading about it, right?
Yeah.
So if I watch it, but if I sell it as, yeah, there's a group of teenagers that's going to go on stage and they'll be performing about kids that fall into gangs, who's going to buy that? Those children's parents and their family. So it's, again, outcome. What are we selling the product as? It's the narrative that we put around the product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No,
I think the challenge that you're talking about, it's not a challenge. It's a talent. It's a talent of being able to put the narrative, outcome narrative, and the way you've just put it to the way we would say, come and watch this because you learned something. It's not. It's like, you know, that's not the language. The language is about, as you said, the outcome of saying that if you did this, then these are the things that will appeal to a range of audience people.
Anyone with a child that will appeal to, won't it?
Yeah.
Even with Alan, it could be, you know, a fantastic show. Come and watch the show. But actually, if we sold it in a way of actually you watching the show would mean that 2 of the children would be able to go to college. You would be funding children to go. I mean, I don't know what it does, but this is the outcome of you watching that show for the performers. Oh, okay, so we get to watch a show and we are helping the students because this is the outcome. My money is now going towards this outcome for these children. You're more likely to look at that and go, oh, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. A, it's a night out, and B, I'm also contributing towards this. And that appeals to me.
Yeah.
Very good.
So do you just what I mean? So yes, we have the performing arts and everything else, which is amazing. So I know that us watching that show at Platinum Performing Arts, that money that was raised went towards 2 of the children going to an art college. So the outcome of, so when we're advertising is, you guys, by attending, you guys will be supporting or be paying for 2 students to go to a college for 2 years who would never be able to afford it. 2 talented students who are going to go on to do So we're giving them the narrative, the story. We're talking to them about what they've already done to support these kids before they've even done it. So the assumption is that people want to do it. I'm assuming that you guys want to support the community by what I'm hearing. And I'm also seeing what you're doing, but we need to now see the outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Really
So I
good.
told you I talk a lot. I'm really sorry.
No, this is great.
It's been very good.
Really good.
Thank you very much. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
Always here if anyone needs a little bit of a chat.
Very thought-provoking.
Have a great
Yeah.
day, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.